In today's news feature, Lisa Sugar talks with the Reverend Michael Hutsko, pastor of St. Peter and Paul's Ukrainian Catholic Church in Mount Carmel, and the Assumption of the Blessed Virgin Mary Ukrainian Church in Centralia about the reason for fasting during Lent and much more.
The reality is that fasting is a tool that the church recommends to us in order to discipline ourselves, to see beyond our own needs, to see beyond our own physical needs, our own ego and pride, and to pursue and make room for the presence of God. So when we say fasting, we don't just fast from eating meat or dairy products during the Lenten season. We fast from our desires. We fast from our material pursuits. We let go of them. We push them aside so that we make room for the presence of God in our lives, so that He can then sanctify and make holy our everyday lives and make holy our earthly pursuits. And while it's fallen out of favor of so many people, I do believe that there is an opportunity to pass this message that it's not a negative tool or task, but that fasting brings us to a place where God is able to speak to our hearts without all of the other distractions that come into our lives.
We went through so much this past few years. We've had the COVID situation, and hopefully that is getting behind us now. And that, do you think maybe that has been a wake-up call for a lot of people, that more people now are wanting to return to church and to do these things?
My experience and the experience of many of the priests that I've spoken with is that people not return to church in the numbers that we had hoped. My own attendance is less, but I put that in perspective in a sense because we, as church, have found other ways to communicate with people, including live streaming of our services. And while my attendance is not where it was before COVID, I can look and see that there are always a couple hundred, 300 people watching the live streaming of Divine Liturgy from here at St. Peter and Paul Church on Saturday afternoons. So while I believe that people are experiencing a spiritual revival, but they're experiencing it in a modern and contemporary way through social media. And that's not bad, that's not necessarily good, but it is keeping people in touch with their spiritual needs. And that's a good thing.
Do you think some of them feel, well, I haven't been going to church, so now maybe they feel they shouldn't go back, or they're afraid to go back?
I have an elderly congregation, and they're still fearful of the virus. My hope and expectation is that as we return to normalcy as we are, that they're going to populate the pews again.
Father, how difficult is it for the people who are in Ukraine dealing with so much to still be able to worship properly, especially during this Lenten season?
It's very challenging and very difficult, and they're very anxious. Recently, because of the increased attacks in Kyiv especially, but also in other cities throughout Ukraine, there has been fear for our Patriarch Sviatoslav in Kyiv, the head of our Ukrainian Catholic Church, as well as for other bishops in the cities in which there is great fighting, and the priests who are serving the people. And they have received invitations to leave Ukraine, to go to the Vatican, to move to other places in Ukraine. And our Patriarch has told us personally and recently that they are all staying in their dioceses. They are all remaining in their sees. They are remaining to serve the people.
Today's news feature is brought to you by Feisner's Ford in Freeland, who is celebrating 75 years in business. Give them a call at 570-636-3920, or you can log on to feisnersford.com.